Severance is a 2022 television show directed by Ben Stiller and written by Dan Erickson. The premise of the show is based on the idea that what if it was possible to split yourself between your work and personal self, where you would not recall any of the memories from work when you're off, and while you're at work, you would have no memories of the outside. The act of separating or severing yourself into two different versions, hence the name of the surgery and title of the show Severance. The show is a science fiction drama in a dystopian world, but provides a lot of commentary on the state of the world we live in. The show opens with a woman on a table in the shape of a coffin. She is asked a set of questions that she doesn't know the answers to.
Who are you?
That's the first question?
First name will do.
I don't...
It's okay. If you can't answer the question, feel free to say unknown.
Causing her to panic. Finishing the survey, she is told that she scored perfect,
That's a perfect score.
showing that she is unable to access who she is. Mark S. is the main character we first meet, crying in the parking lot of his severed workplace, Lumen, because of the recent death of his wife, later revealed. Mark elected to be severed to escape the grief of his wife dying. After getting himself together, the bustling inside of Lumen is revealed, where Mark takes off his outside clothes to adorn his workplace attire. Mark then ascends to the severance floor, transforming into his work self, navigating the maze-like hallways with a precision of familiarity, throwing his used tissue with no recollection of the outside. Mark enters the office and starts talking to Dylan, revealing his character, how Dylan finds the work of his job important, and how it is pertinent that it is done in a timely manner. He starts to talk badly about the company, but is told to stop in the presence of Irving.
Careful, guy.
This reveals that Dylan cares about the work, but not the company itself, or doesn't have any pride in it. Later, when Dylan mentions,
I might get passed over for Refiner of the Quarter and miss out on my goddamn waffle party.
it is revealed that Dylan works not for the completion of projects, but is motivated by the rewards. Mark is called into Harmony Corbell's office by her assistant, Milchick. He is told that he will be taking over their old co-worker's position as floor manager. His first task as manager is to train the new employee, creating a full circle to the first scene, revealing the man behind the curtain and showing it's just someone doing their job.
That's a perfect score.
Helly R's character is our unfiltered view of Lumen. She questions the idiocracy of the workspace and how and why these people work here. Helly's not keen on her introduction to Lumen. Skeptic from the very beginning and her jarring welcome to the workplace, she can't be blamed. Her attempts to leave, but the inability to do so, show that she is trapped in Lumen, which leads her to believe that she is in hell, forced to do meaningless tasks for unfulfilling rewards, and kept in a labyrinth of an office space, separated from not only the outside, but other departments too. It is not until she watches the video of her outside self that she feels the true horror that the reason she is trapped in Lumen is that she chose it. Helly's realization that her existence will always be in the workplace causes her to panic. She tries to devise plans to escape, writing notes to give to her outside self, but realizes they can detect messages trying to get through. She thinks maybe she can swallow the message, but is warned that they can detect messages inside her body too.
Hey, just in case you find this relevant for some reason, the code detectors can read messages hidden inside the body as well.
Feeling so trapped and out of control, she threatens to cut off her own fingers if they don't deliver a message to her outside self. When the message is delivered and Helly gets her message back, she feels utterly hopeless. Since none of her plans work and Helly is dejected, she decides to take her own life. Severance encourages the audience to look at life differently. How capitalism and work and its requirements demand that we leave our true lives behind and play a role. A character where we sever our real selves to fit the workspace and spend most of our lives playing a role, acting to not disrupt others. And acting doesn't have to mean in the Hollywood sense, but wearing clothes to fit the part, hiding your tears before you go into work, and pretending to be okay even though you aren't. It requires us to be two different people, dress differently, talk differently, and act differently from our normal, true selves. Disregarding our passions for something that is meaningless just for the money. Severance does a great job of visualizing this not only through what has already been shown, but through absurdist techniques like reading a script from a script.
Who are you?
The company handbook being regarded as religious gospel.
I actually cried when you guys put up the youthful convalescence of Kyo. No, I did. I never thought I'd see the handbook passage depicted visually. It was only up for a month or so. Man, What a month.
The meaningless tasks of jobs taken to another level, playing catchy elevator music while Mark walks through endless bleak office hallways. While absurdism in film has been used to judge and criticize bureaucracy in post-war America and Russia, Severance uses it to strip down the corporate landscape and lives, to expose the normalization of a 9-to-5 job, the invasion of our private lives, and the greed of corporations to dominate every aspect of our lives. Our separation or severance from ourselves to play a character who's controlled and welcomes the assault of corporations, like mental health checks and safety to negate any behavior risk without recognizing the main problem, and being made to wear a corporate uniform to fit the picturesque look of the office, showing that we are as much controlled by corporations as we ever were by bureaucracy. Severance being a product of Apple, a flashy tech company that is the key inspiration of an impressive workplace like Lumen. It seems contradictory for the show to make any critique on corporate life, but protest films are produced under guise to get the attention and funding that they need. If you look at films like Closely Watched Trains, they are protesting the communist rule that is oppressing them, but the film was funded and approved by the same communist government. How they get this film approved and published for the public eye is hiding the message of the film. The separation in Severance doesn't stop in the brain of Lumen employees, but through the physical building itself. Not a physical separation like in the real world where higher income classes use the workplace to separate themselves from the poor, but each department is separated from the other, and they rarely run into each other, to create a divide through departments where they could never unite and unionize to overcome a corporation like Lumen, showing how keeping the population in real life divided over things, less physical things like gender and race, keeps the order for the upper classes. If people are kept content with bread and circus and divided from each other, then the order will stay appeased. If the departments are frightened of each other, they can never work together.
Nice.
No, they're not, nor do they share our values. Kier sorted the departments by virtue, macro dads are clever and true, while O&D's more cruelty-centered.
And if the separation of classes and people not only exists in a social aspect, but within ourselves, creating a hierarchy of class between your work self and outside self, division is inevitable. The horror of severance in modern life is that we choose to be in a place that we hate, and it's more of an illusion of choice. Most people aren't financially independent enough to work or protest.
Well, every time you find yourself here, it's because you chose to come back.
If you want to have a nice life, a home, entertainment, and food, you have to sever yourself. Force yourself into a character to fit in the workplace. It shows that corporate life is terribly oppressive. You have to spend the majority of your life playing a character. Most corporate workers mimic the myth of Sisyphus, where they are stuck performing the same task day in and day out just to continue the cycle. It is oddly hellish, and Severance makes this analogy of corporate life being a hell on earth.
Hell is just the product of a morbid human imagination. The bad news is, whatever humans can imagine, they can usually create.
And that is the horror of Severance. That this is not literal hell, but one that we've created through our actions. And our separation is the key to keeping us in this perceived hell.